almost perfect score lah. Okay, but the result is I got a huge burnout. So after that, my goal is to like live life happily lah.
So welcome back to a new episode of the Backholder Pod. So I think this time around, we are trying to experiment with a new way of conducting our different podcast episodes. So we'll try to break down every single episode to the individual topics so you guys can consume the different topics at your own time. And we do know that sometimes hour-long episode might be a little bit too long. So I think at your own discretion. So I think this time around, specifically for this video itself, Channel News Asia recently just released a very interesting table where it essentially depicts what a current Singapore fresh graduate actually earns on a month-on-month basis based on the different course faculty or course cluster. So I think maybe I'll just get Kelvin's opinion on it first, on what do you think of this new trend and your perspective as both an ex-employee and an employer now.
Wow, I got a lot of opinion. Okay, let me just share my screen. Easier, don't need to edit later on.
Sure.
Share. Oh, can see?
Yeah, can.
Okay. So I think this week CNA released this thing out lah. It's by three universities if I'm not wrong, the NTU, NUS, and the SMU. And the highest paid one is Information and Digital Technologies, followed by Engineering is the second lah. So these two, I think it's always expected that the IT and the engineering pay are the highest. But surprisingly, I went to dig a bit further. I saw a few interesting trends lah. First of all, arts is the lowest paid one. So if you look at this median income, someone went and tracked the starting pay of art students starting from 2011 to 2020 is the art student pay. So right now there are about 3,000 That was I think last year's data . Then if I go and search for computing computer science, you see that one look like a dividend stock, another look like a tech stock. So what for the computer science, their starting pay has almost doubled, but the art pay is like flat all the entire decade . It's like a lost decade to them. So but this doesn't only apply to art students. I also went to check like business admin. Their pay also barely went up. What else? Engineering pay. Yeah, engineering. Let's say engineering. Their pay are also almost flat. So it seems like it's only like IT pay has only been steadily going up . I think, not sure why. It's like a tech boom . More companies need IT people now . So probably if you are going into the IT field, your pay will keep going up, while the rest are like flat all decade long . Yeah. So what do the rest of you think?
Yeah, I think this one, I do expect this kind of results. The reasons being that I think if we skip 2022, just looking at the recent years, excluding all the recent layoff in tech industry, I think definitely computer science or any occupations that's related to tech that is in high demand. That's why it can command a higher starting salaries. So I'm not surprised to see that. And also we can see that there's a lot of money channeled into all kind of different projects. Say, for example, like those related to AI and so on. So every companies, imagine that you are in a companies, right? You need to decide how to spend your money. Some money you spend into tech related one, it's easier to get budget so that you can explore new project onto those new areas. Whereas other areas, I say, for example, like just a traditional marketing and so on, these are not the project or area that will get allocations or funding. That's why I think it's easier for company to make this kind of expenses in tech related projects. That's why that's where the demand come from. So I'm not surprised to see that.
Actually, I have a question. So I think one of the most fundamental ideas of a salary is basically like the value you bring to a marketplace, right? So when you make this kind of comparison, like saying, oh, ADM or design and media is starting pay is 3.5, and then engineering 4.6, and business degrees are 4.1. Implicitly, you are saying that a certain type of undergrad is bringing more value to the marketplace compared to another undergrad, right? So this is a very crude way, very coarse way of looking at what's your value proposition and how much you're paid in the marketplace, right? So is it really that case though, or do you guys think that's how we should look at it this way though? Because sometimes arguably there are very noble professions like teaching, for example, and they are probably paid quite low. I think Eric was an ex-teacher. Today, I don't know. Eric, maybe you want to comment on this.
I don't think they are paid low, no. If you look at the chart, right, from Seedly, actually they actually broke it out like the different faculties, right? Education, NIE specifically, was one of the category and it's kept pace with the median income. So it's now at 4,002 exactly. I suspect because civil service, right?
They peg it, right?
Yeah, the bulk of the employer. So whatever salary point that they peg at, right, will disproportionately influence the overall median. So
but I would argue that teachers should be paid higher than the median income. That was what I was trying to say. Like, I think for the workload that they're doing and the responsibility of the job scope itself, I think they should be paid higher than median. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah, actually, I actually got one thought regarding the IT one, but I'll hold that thought first. Talking about this education, right? I felt that, yeah, actually the teachers are paid quite well, you know. Like recently I was talking to an ex-colleague, right, from don't say where, talking to her and then she said, oh, you're very good, you have your own center, blah, blah, blah. Then I also say, oh, I see you also very good, I got stable income. So then we talked a lot. Then I asked her, hey, then when you want to come out and start a center and all that? They say, I don't dare, I'm not as courageous as you are. But then she said something which I thought sums up everything. She said that MOE pays them enough for them to stay and like suck up the workload. I think a teacher that has worked about 5 to 7 years, right? He will earn probably about somewhere between 80 to 100K. Okay, those that are a bit more have a bit more responsibility, probably like a subject head or level head, they can earn like probably about 100K a year. Yeah, so plus the CPF from the employer, I think they are earning quite a good salary, 110, 114 thereabouts. So I think they are paid quite well. So this one that you see 4,200 is like it is the headline number but it's not really what 100% what they are paid. They still got performance bonus, they got mid-year bonus, end of the year bonus, then don't know all kinds of things. Leadership allowance, yeah.
Yeah, with this say, I still think that different occupations or different sectors definitely command different level of salary or let's say total incomes. This one is not a surprise, right? I mean, different, really, you can't expect someone working at certain high-paying industry, you can't expect that he's getting like a very low salary, right? But I just want to quickly comment on Chikeng's questions, like should we like really how to say pay higher salary to those who so-called having a noble professions, right? I actually don't think so. I think that all this, right, still come back to supply and demand. So you really need that to how to say, to guide the markets. Say for example, if there's this new profession or a new area that just came out and then there's just not enough people to fill up that role, right? So there will be like lack of supply, and because of the high demands, the salary should go up to attract people into that areas. And also some of these areas is also like super hard and so on. So different work, you also require different hours, different kind of commitment and so on, right? So all this should be reflected in the total income so that it can attract the peoples, because this is not a communist society, right? So I don't think we should like just say, oh, this is noble, should pay more. The other one is like, oh, this is like normal job, we should pay less and so on. We should let the market decide, which is supply and demand.
Okay, just to push back a little bit on this supply and demand thing, right? What do you guys think about the starting pay for like health professions, like nurses and all that? It's, I think arguably it's like even more noble than,
yes,
right? Like this is life and death, yeah. So we probably need it a lot, but still, if I'm not wrong, right, the last time I stayed over at a hospital when my son went to KKH, I think their pay is still not that great, yeah. About 3,000-ish. Yeah, but it's
my
very
wife
high demand.
My wife knows someone, my wife is in the same field lah, so this one I can comment. I know that if you're not in the hospital, right, the pay is not as high as nurses who are in the hospital. With the reason being, like when the government announced bonus for nurses, right, it's mainly for the hospital nurses and not for outside of hospital nurses, like clinics and that kind of stuff lah. But I also think that like nurse pay actually is on par with the teachers' pay leh. Probably even lesser from what I know lah. Even though nurses, their role are, you can say that it's more, quantify it as more noble as a teacher like, because it's a life and death situation ma. But their pay is lower. In the end, it ties back to what Punti said, it's a supply and demand thing. Like if you want nurses to be paid a lot more, then you have to deduct the pay of doctors already. There's no way around that, right? But who is going to agree to that thing, right? So is this what the market decides, though?
No, so I cannot wrap my head around this, because the demand for nurses, especially during the COVID period, which we just came out of, was like off the charts. Like we needed a lot of nurses, but they didn't really raise the pay a lot. They gave once-off bonus a bit, and then
I think the bonus was quite significant, if I'm not wrong.
But it's a once-off, man. Unless you're like every year annually you pay them this, then okay lah. But
also not every year COVID ma. So like I think that was during the crunch time, right? So I think generally you're talking about like the basic or the base pay of the nursing profession, right? I mean, technically, I think it's kind of quote unquote suppressed because of demand supply lah. The supply of nurses is, I guess, not going to make any comments here, but I think we all kind of know what's the current state of the healthcare industry now lah. So I guess that's why it's generally on the lower end, and you don't really see like Singaporeans entering into the industry.
You're trying to say that there's a lot of demand from, there's a lot of supply overseas,
from neighboring countries.
Yeah, but I interviewed the nurse, right? She was from neighboring country. She said that no leh, they don't have enough nurses. They're not even able to take leave, because they don't have enough people taking over. So that's the point where I cannot wrap my head around. You say demand and supply. Supply have lah, but it's not enough. Then they still don't want to increase the pay to attract like locals to go in. I mean, there are lah, but if you look around in the hospital, right, like locals maybe make up like 20%. Then bulk of it is from overseas. Even with that, supplement is not enough. So I'm like, what are we doing about it? Like, we're just gonna let this imbalance thing go on.
Eric, do you want to pay more for your hospital bill?
I got insurance, so okay lah.
Because if you want to pay them more, it's definitely cut doctors' pay, or you just pay more as the consumer, right?
Cut doctors' pay.
The paying of insurance thing also is a short-sighted thing though. Long term, if you keep paying upwards, your premium are gonna increase also. So it's gonna bond back to you again. You cannot run away one. This whole cycle is all linked.
Yeah, it's all linked. And then you cut the doctor pay, then you don't have enough doctors.
Yeah, that one won't. Doctors, they are paid like crazy high amounts. You won't believe how much they earn.
You have to realize that they also can go overseas to work, So if let's say in Singapore they are paid relatively lower, why not they just go to Australia, go to US to work as a doctor? So I mean, this is just one example. Like as long as you suppress certain sectors, there will be other implications. And also I want to highlight that the two professions that we mentioned about, one is nurse, the other one is the teachers, right? I think these are sectors that is heavily influenced or heavily influenced by the government. Basically, government is in that business. So it's slightly different compared to the private industry, where you have like more like a cleaner supply and demand. So whenever you have government in there and they have policy and so on, they can disrupt all this supply and demand. Hence, a lot of all these problems can come up because of that. They can also solve problem, but depending on the policies.
Right.
I also
so
want to go back to the sorry, Chiking.
Never mind, you
I also
continue
want to
first.
go back to the initial topic lah, because we are talking about starting pay. How much do you think starting pay matters?
So Moomoo platform currently is running a promotional campaign until the end of Feb of 2023. So if you deposit more than $2,700 into Moomoo, you can spin a wheel and get up to one free Apple share, which is worth around 200 plus Singapore dollars. And more importantly, they have a few of the side quests and a few of the events that they're running on the site where you deposit more than $100 into Moomoo Cash Plus, you can get a $2 cashback every day for 10 days. And one last point, there's also this Fishing Joy game where you can play a game and win up to $88 cash. So if you're interested, the link is in the description box down below. So feel free to head down and just use our link below. And yeah, thank you Moomoo for sponsoring this video.
Like for Bunti, do you see a starting pay affecting your current salary?
I think the starting pay is not that important in that sense, but I think the table that we are seeing, right, I think it gives indications on which industry pay more relative to the others. So let's say if the starting pay of IT is higher than others, right, you should, I mean, just assuming that after like those with 5 to 10 year experience, right, it should also be higher because this is really the industry. The starting is higher means that the average is also higher for those experience. So I think this is one message that for those who are looking for a job, you can or looking to choose which course to study, right? They can take that as a reference. But of course, for anyone, let's say you already get into certain profession, let's say you are a civil engineer or what kind of professions, right? I think the starting pay will not be that important because there are other factors that's a lot more important. Say, for example, like are you working for companies can let you grow? Are you able to learn from the job? Is there a good mentor within that company or that profession and so on? So there are other factors that will be in play because the starting is just a starting. Usually the first 5 years of the career, right? How steep is the curve, right? Also varied by different profession and industry. So some companies that you start up higher, but then it's kind of like flat. Some is just like starting out slightly lower, but the steepness, because in that profession, people just are willing to pay more for those fresh grad because they still need to train the person, right? So, but those who, let's say, have 3 to 5 year experience can only command a lot higher. So do you choose a profession based on the starting pay or based on someone with 5 to 10 years pay? So there's some difference there, some details.
Maybe I can share my own thoughts here because I'm probably going to enter into the workforce soon. I think from that perspective, right, initially, I think for many undergrads or people that are in my age, 他们会把钱看得很重要. They will put a very high priority in the starting pay thing because there's this anchoring effect, right? So let's say you start $200, $300, $500 higher. In the next job scope, if they ask for your previous drawn salary and when they need to match it or they try to counter offer you into a higher position, right, they will need to kind of take reference from your previous pay. So if you think about it, compound interest, right, it works exponentially, right? I think it's the same when just a few $100s starting and then you compound it over a 20, 30 year career horizon, it might have a very large influence in the ending part. But I think my own perspective, that's the general consensus of what the people think. But I think my own theory or my own logic is quite simple. Like I said, right, at the end of the day, I think working or getting a salary or essentially your net worth, right, is essentially an exchange of value, like between you and the marketplace. So you bring in more value, you are able to pull out more money from this whole society thing. So I know I'm a big Baba fan, or I'm a big Jack Ma fan as well. So he had a quote that I thought was quite interesting. He said between 20s and 30s, you're supposed to find a good boss. And then within 30s to 40s is a good time to start a business. And from 40s to 50s, you should focus on what you do best. So at least for people that are in my age range, like within the 20, 25, 30 years old, right, it's probably much better to kind of acquire skills because truth be told, you probably don't know what the heck you're doing. You don't know what you're good at, you don't know what you're doing, and you need to find people that know what they're doing and try to learn from them. So probably don't get too hung up with that few $100s extra. Or for those of you who start out with like 10K per month, okay, sure, I give you 2 thumbs up that you are earning so much money. But just know that at 20 or at 30 years old, your life is probably like just started. Like you still have 40 years to go and fight it out. So I think this just don't be too hung up like, oh, I have a few $100s per month extra and you want to do this and do that. I think this is just my perspective on that. Yep. And then back to the next part, right? There was this article that was basically going on fire. There was this $10,000 starting pay. There were many netizens being angry. They were expressing their disgruntlement on online. It was essentially an NUS undergrad studying business admin, saying that she's expecting a $10,000 starting pay. I think that the other time we had this discussion, Kelvin was not here. So I just wanted to get Kelvin's opinion on this girl that said that she has a starting pay of 10K. Like, what was your initial thoughts and what was your thought process behind it?
Actually, if you look at the video, it's not only her, but everyone is hitting on her. If you go to the end of the video, there's a psychology student saying she wants a 9K pay. So when you check the fresh grads pay, right? Business admin, if you add in all the bonus, they can actually hit 10K. But for psychology student, it's actually a bit hard. So everyone is actually hating on the wrong person just because she was the person who answered. But back to your question, I think she's definitely at the top of her cohort if she can demand a 10K pay. Like for me, even at my 6th year, right, as a computing student, I can never match the fresh grad pay who graduated that year. So I think it depends on how smart you are in your studies, first of all. Then the second thing, it also depends on what's your relationship with your peers. So if you are like me, who don't like to socialize, like to lock up in the room and play games, you won't get any friends. Because if you can get friends, you'll be able to get referrals into the company. So I know like for Google, I think at least 50% or more of Googlers went into Google based on referrals. Not sure if it's true right now, but that was what I knew back then. Same for places like Accenture, banks, and stuff. So the more network you have, the more pay you will also get. So that's the thing.
So Kelvin, just curious, right? Since you know that, right, network is more or less equal to your net worth, right? Then how come you still lock yourself out in your room and play games? What kind of games are you playing?
No, he's networking with us now, or he's networking the whole. He's like the king of Singapore YouTube finance. What do you mean by locking himself inside?
No, like when he was like undergraduate doing like computer programming, right? If you know this networking can get you referrals into big tech, then you still lock yourself in your room. That's
a bit about my history. So before I went into NUS, I was studying for A-levels in Malaysia. I don't know if Punti knows this or not, but A-levels in Malaysia is very hardcore. You have to cram I don't know how many books in just one and a half year, and you go and spit it out all in an exam. So after that thing, right, I got almost perfect score. Okay, but the result is I got a huge burnout. So after that, my goal is to like live life happily. So that's how I live my life in NUS. My goal is not to fail. That's it. Just to get a degree and get out. And as a result, I get a lower pay. Yeah. But eventually it still work out.
Yeah. Come back to that video. Can I comment?
Actually, I wanted your comment also because you're in the finance industry also. What's how do you look at it? Like, is that normal or the expected and stuff?
Okay, the expected wise, right? Definitely 10K and no such things. So I can just leave it there. But just look at that interview, right? I don't think for the lady, I don't think she did like analysis and then make a case that yes, she's worth 10K. It's not like that, It's just like a street interview. People just suddenly pop up and hey, hello, can I interview you? And then just ask the questions, right? When she put up that 10K, I also don't think that it is like a well thought through kind of a response. If someone can get her and just like interview her now, I don't think she will give the same answer. So sometimes these are like random responses that we give. That sometimes even after we said it, we will regret it. It's not a prepared remark. That's what my feel is. But anyway, I don't know her. So if she can, comment or anyone know what she commented after that, right? That will be helpful. Because right now we are all focusing on that like 5-second clips, right?
I think the most unprepared comments are the most real one. You go and have time to think about it, prepare, then it's not instinctive, it's not real.
Yeah, I think it's instinctive, it's real, but it's not like well thought through, Like I suddenly you ask me how much you want, then I just pop up a question which is real, which is sincere. But if after do some market research and then after understanding the supply demand, right, will she still say, okay, I want 10K when she speak to a prospective employer? I don't think so lah. Yeah, that's my view. Yeah, only
Actually,
guessing here.
I think if I'm not wrong, right, I think that the answer that she came up with, right, is more like the average of the people around her are expecting. So that is the first thought that came to her mind. Oh, I also request around there. I mean, if you go and do market research, yeah, true, she may get more insights. But my guess is that your surrounding peers have a lot of influence on your current state of mind. Like if we ask Chiking now, right, how much you expecting when you graduate? What will he say?
Zero expectations, because I don't want to be disappointed. But I would push back to that, right, Bunti? Maybe because I'm quite close to this group of people lah. So in my own circle, right, there is very polarizing two school of people lah. The one part is the normal one, which is I think at least for now, last year, right, everybody know lah. We did our own analysis already. A lot of people went through interviews and stuff. So generally speaking, I think I shared in the previous video as well, the 3.8 to 5K range, that's the normal one. So you have your MA programs, your analyst programs, they go into a specific role, they go into ops, they go into what. So that's the general piece. And then there is the high flying piece. So truth be told, in this high flying piece, really got people can command 7, 8, 10, but they are really the cream of the crop. Like they are part of a very niche group, and they're in a very good network, like what Kelvin suggested. So I would also encourage people, the younger ones, right, to really go and network and to fit yourself into this group of people. And don't keep thinking, they should accept me, they should accept me. You should think how you should add value to the group and why they want to accept you into the group. But I'm just telling you that there really is this sort of like very niche area. And most likely than not, people that can draw like 8 to 10 are usually in like the investment banking space. They are in the hedge fund space. They're in the quant space. So these people, they really gao xing ping qing. They use a very high amount of compensation to attract talents in. But that said, don't forget, you are definitely sacrificing something. This is not tech. I'm not trying to flame tech industry also, but I know a lot of the tech industry people on TikTok, right? They say, wow, I work 5 hours, 6 hours a day, and then I get like 100,000 compensation. I think specifically for finance, these people will work from 9 to 2 a.m. Not 2 p.m., 2 a.m. Then tomorrow start again. And then some of them sleep in crunch time, they'll sleep in office and stuff. So the stress will be there. The amount of time you're going to dedicate in your relationships are going to be strained. So just have the correct mindset when you go into it, saying that, having 100K comms just out of uni is a good thing. It's not going to be a walk in the park, at least for finance. So that's just my perspective on that. Like, maybe that girl might really be in that space. So I would think, I mean, a lot of people that comment online, right, they might not know her enough. So that's why I also reserve my comments into saying that whether she really can earn 10 or not. So if she can, then good for her. But she might know, or everybody should know the trade-offs at the back of their hand when they make such a comment.
Yeah, I think instead of like commenting on her like personally, right? Because we like you said, we don't know her, but at least we can comment on the professions. I think you mentioned about finance, but I just want to share that finance, right, is not a niche area, you know. It's very, very big. Anything to do with, let's say, corporate, business, finance, all these tend to be grouped into the same big group where people work in, you know, like banks. I mean, generally, it's like just business corporates. Okay, so that one we call the so-called the finance, right? This one is very generic. But of course, within that, right, you just drew down, there are professions that, for example, like you mentioned, investment banks. If you say investment bank, let's say JP Morgan or whatever, they hire someone fresh grads, let's say like 10, 12K. I'm not surprised. That's very, very like niche area. General finance can't have this kind of like high salary. So that's one thing I want to mention. The other thing is that like the value, that how much value that you can bring, right? I am more skeptical on like finance or business degree, because these are more like generic stuff. And then in order to have a high impact or high value, you really need the experience, you know. There are things, it's not like you have 200 IQ, then you can solve one. Without experience, you just don't know how the game is played, right? So you can't solve it. You require experience. But let's say you say someone work in as a, let's say like a computer scientist or as a hacker and so on, and he can actually do stuff that even top people in the field say that, wow, this one is very difficult. And they kind of people, even if they don't have any experience, just like 15 years old, but he can come up with some solution, right? And he say, I want to be paid like 500K a year, right? I think that one definitely, he can call for that kind of payment or that kind of total income, because he's able to solve things that other people cannot solve. But back to the generic finance, I think 10K is, I'm very skeptical. I think it's just like too high of expectations. Yeah. So we need to be more like, targeted when commenting on this. Yeah.
Right. I have a finance degree and I feel attacked. But anyway, thanks Bunti for rounding up the entire discussion. So if you guys enjoyed, we will break up the few remaining topics in subsequent videos as well. Remember to help smash the like button, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.